and make-believers. In today's video, I am doing my writing journey number 22. Traditional publishing marketplace and the indie publishing marketplace and what's going on there. I'll start with the indie books because it's quite exciting. I am working on the final book in the Last Relentless series. I'm very excited. It is the final book of the 6-book series, so I can't believe it's actually coming to an end and I will have officially written my first series. I did plan for it to be a trilogy, as some of you may know, but it escalated and it escalated. And technically it's a 5-book series, but it's got a novella, which obviously also wasn't planned. But yes, I am officially working on it. I am like 3/4 of the way through, so it's pretty much looking like it will be done by beginning February, like the first week of February or so. And then of course it will be coming to the 2nd draft and the 3rd draft and editors and all of that stuff. I have mixed feelings. I'm so excited because I have other series planned, which I'll get to talking to you about, but I'm so sad because then all these characters that I've spent the last 3 years with, and actually 4 or 5 years because obviously they were simmering in my brain before I wrote them, yeah, that time is up. Other than that, I am of course planning the next series that I will be writing. So I have a story premise set up. I believe some of you did help me pick what fantastical being creature I will be using, and I can tell you that it will feature demons and angels. There will be, how much do I want to tell you about this? I've got a title, I'm getting some character names, learning their backstories, I know the predicament, but yes, let's just say it will involve angels and demons, and I will be filling you in so much more on that series. Operation Angel is what I'm calling it, and Operation Angel is coming soon. And so in terms of release, this kind of goes into the whole indie publishing thing as well. So in terms of release, I was hoping to release the Last Relentless, the final book in the Last Relentless series in March. But of course I didn't thoroughly organize myself, and so my cover designer is not available until April. So it's only the following month, but you know, sadly it's a month later than I hoped. So she's available in April, then of course I have to wait for her to finish it. So I am hoping to be able to release the book in April, but of course I just need to see how long she needs to do the cover, and to see if my release date will coincide with her availability, because obviously she's done the first 5 books in the series, so I don't want the 6th book to be done by somebody else. I want to use her. But yes, so a little tip for those of you that are going into indie publishing: make sure you get yourself organized beforehand. And yes, I thought I was being organized by getting in touch with her in January and saying, hey, can I have you in March? But actually no, 2 months is not enough. It's better to have the cover in advance, and I'm learning that now, again, as I go. This is my 6th book, and I'm learning that it's actually best just to have the covers stacked and ready to go. And the reason I never got the covers made was because for me, I'm like, I want to release the cover, but I have to wait because of course you don't want to release it too soon, and then people are like, didn't you show me something like 10 years ago? Where is it? So you know, you want to do it in a close range. So just a little tip: that get your covers organized, but be prepared to sit on them and be patient, and don't jump the gun and release them, because if you release it too soon, then people are going to forget about it by the time the book's out. So anyway, the tentative release date for the last book in the Last Relentless series is April. And as for the new series, I'm torn. So maybe if you have any opinions on this, do let me know. I'm stuck between either finishing the Last Relentless series 1 week and say 3 weeks later releasing the first book of the new series, which is going to be a duology, by the way, which is a 2-book series. So I'm looking forward to having 2 series written by the end of this year. So yeah, another tip: write shorter series. If I'd done a trilogy, I would have 2 series out right now, you know what I mean? So write trilogies or shorter. But anyways, yeah, so I'm debating whether to release last book and then first book 3 weeks later or so, or if I should do the standard typical indie pub is like every 3 months, so if I should wait 3 months. But I feel like 3 months is a bit long, so I'm thinking I might do them a month apart. So if that one's April, then the other one will be May. That is everything so far in my indie publishing world. And now onto the traditional publishing side of things and the querying process of things. So as we all know, Ashes of Legends. It has been 8 months of submissions, although to be fair I did stop for about 3 or 4 of those months, but still it's been 8 months or so since I began submissions, and since then, for my first round of submissions, my mistakes I did discuss in my last writing journey about, you know, how quickly you send out the submissions without waiting for feedback, and I can't remember what else the mistakes were, but I did touch on them in another writing journey video, so you can just go back. I did discuss the mistakes of my querying process and just the mistakes that I've learned that other people have done during their querying process. So anyways, what I learned from that first round of submissions was to wait for replies. So when I did be doing my research and heard like wait for replies, wait for what people say because maybe they'll give you pointers, that's when I received some pointers about not using the word gypsy, not using telling dialogue, being more right there action packed. So I learned a lot of stuff from the first round of submissions, and that's when I stopped submitting for a few months, and then I resubmitted, but to new agents. I don't believe I went back to the same agents. Oh, I went back to the same agents that read it, that did the full manuscript. I went back to them and said, hey, well, I've changed this. And what happened was, with the changes, a lot more interest came from agents. It was very, very exciting time. So a lot more interest, a lot more positive feedback, but still not 100%. And the majority of the feedback, it was only, I didn't send it to as many then, because I also learned not to send it to as many. So I think I only sent it to 10 or 12 that time, and I didn't hear from them all, although some of them still, it's not timed, like some of them say 6 months. But the ones that I did hear from all had positive feedback. They didn't want it, but they gave me the reasons why they didn't want it, and basically said, you know, without this, we would be interested. And they got the query letter, and I tweaked my query letter a little bit, and they got probably the first 5 to 10 sample pages. So anyways, the big majority feedback was a complete and utter blunder on my part. When I think about it, I'm like, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? Like, yes, it helps me explain the sick, twisted mind of this character, but it was the opening scene, and it was brutal, and it involves abuse. And that's the thing, in the indie market, and my beta readers who read it loved it. They loved this thing. They had the emotions I wanted them to have. They loved the story. They were hooked from that gripping opening scene. And what I found was that the agents, a lot of the agents that got back to me said the same thing. But to sell it, they were like, it's difficult to sell a book with trigger warnings, and it's difficult to sell a book with trigger warnings right off the bat. When I went back to it, I was like, yeah, what was I thinking? Like, how would that sell in the traditional market? In the indie market, you can, of course, because it's you're in charge. But for traditional markets, they have to think more general, appealing to a more general crowd. Of course, there will be niches that you fit into, but an abuse niche is kind of a tricky one. And also, the story itself is not an abuse story. It was just an abusive scene. But I realized that, okay, I could, you know, change that scene and still evoke similar emotions or the similar outcome, because I needed a certain outcome to happen. So that was the biggest pointer of my agent's feedback. But also, during the months that I wasn't submitting, I also looked at query letters and found that my query letter, as interesting as it was not a back cover blurb, which is definitely what your query should be like. It telling you what's at stake, who's there, what's happening, what do they have to lose, and what's the question, what's the overall question throughout this book. So a query letter tip that I have learned over the submission process during the 4 months that I took a break from submitting and just reworked the book. I also reworked the query letter, because a lot of my original rejections also did not get sample pages. There are quite a few agents out there that simply want the query letter, and if they feel hooked from the query letter, they will then ask for sample pages. So in January, just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now, I began the submission process again. I'm doing it much slower now in smaller batches. So far I believe I have submitted it to another 10 to 12 agents, and already in the first week I received 1 request for a full manuscript. In the second week I received another request for the full manuscript, and so far still just waiting to hear back from the rest. So looking very, very positive, all from, I truly believe, changing my query letter, and then of course removing that one traumatic scene. Now actually the opening chapter is a chapter that didn't exist until recently, and then the second chapter is now the first chapter, which had the traumatic scene, but now also the traumatic scene's gone. So I'm feeling positive, so fingers crossed. Stay focused, stay open, stay positive, and listen to the advice. Don't take it as criticism and like you suck. Listen to the advice because they're helping you appeal to the masses, which, you know, I imagine if you want to go to the trad market, you want to appeal to the masses. And that is all for my writing journey so far. As always, if you have any questions about the indie publishing market, about the trad publishing market and the querying process of it, if you have any questions about Operation Angel, or any questions about Ash of Legends, or anything else about my books and what I will be working on, then please feel free to drop a comment below, send me a message, find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, because I do updates there and stories and stuff like that, so feel free to find me there. And that is all. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, then please consider giving it a thumbs up, but if you like all my other videos, then please consider subscribing. And until next time, I'll see you. Bye!